All right, welcome to the first module, History of Media Marketing. In the four modules, we're going to learn the basic principles of how to think and approach media marketing such that we can communicate effectively with the marketplace. This is for everybody who has an idea to sell, has a business, has a service, whether it's a local service or a local business, or whether it's a startup with a global ambition. Doesn't really matter. What really matters is we need to approach the way we communicate our ideas that we're selling appropriately. Otherwise, we're just going to go down the road where we're going to be, mad at something outside of ourselves. We really need to just learn how to think properly about media marketing. And what's important is once we learn how to think properly, we're able to build a website that can be used effectively in order to communicate with the outside world, which is going to be our consumer. So it's very important for us to understand these principles, and I'm going to show you exactly where to start as far as the website goes with Tumblr. Tumblr is a really, really good and easy platform to start. It already has a social element in it. You can install your Tumblr on a web domain, like your website name.com or whatever your website is. You can just purchase just the domain and install your Tumblr on that domain. So it makes it a really simple solution and a powerful one at that, where you can implement everything that we're going to be learning in the next four modules. So this is going to be a crash course on media marketing. I'm going to show you exactly how to execute it as well at the end using Tumblr. All right, so let's get started. This is going to be a history of media marketing. So the main question I'm trying to answer with this lecture is how can individuals replicate the global success of corporate America, but on their own personal level and perhaps on local level as well. If we understand how the thought process behind the success of corporate America has propelled them to that global success, applying this kind of thinking on individual level can potentially help us at the very least in our local level, because that's where it really starts. If you can't really find a way to service your local community with that what you want to do, then it's going to be really hard for you to find a global application to that what you do. I think at the very least, I think that's where it's going, because globalization can't continue forever. At some point, it's going to start uh, its roots at a local level and then grow into a global companies. I think that's kind of the model that we're heading towards. And again, that's going to be the nature of my question here. So let's say define media, let's define marketing and put it all together. So media, when I talk about media, we have to understand that media isn't just a picture or a video. Media goes back to cave era, where people did the cave paintings in order to communicate from generation to generation to generation. Some stories, some images, and so on. And that was there actually, an element of marketing. So let's define marketing as well. So marketing, it's a continuous effort to optimize our position, meaning our idea or brand or us as an individual in the marketplace and in the minds of the people that we're serving. So in other words, effective communication such as it inspires action or participation or some kind of feedback from the people that we're communicating. So that's marketing in a nutshell. I also want to point out the purchasing decisions, right? Because that's the kind of feedback we want to receive ultimately, right, from the people we're marketing towards. And we need to really understand that the purchasing decisions are emotional based. They're not based on logic. So we need to figure out what's the pain points, what are we solving, and also we have to communicate effectively on the emotional level that really sometimes has nothing to do with what it is that we're selling. And I'm going to demonstrate that in the moment. But so another thing that we need to understand is homogenized audience. Homogenized audience is a perfect example in the McDonald's menu in Europe. Every state in Europe or country in Europe has a different menu because the audience in that particular country has a different culture from a different neighboring country even. But in the United States, in California and New York State, they're gonna have the same burgers. and it's a lot more profitable for a corporation to deal with homogenized audience rather than in Europe. I think it's called heterogeneous audience, where they're different from one another. And so I hope you understand how, from corporate perspective, from profit perspective, it's a lot more profitable to have homogenized audience from coast to coast, from California to New York, rather than how it is in Europe, where every little region requires different approach, different attention, different menu. Quickly, let's go over the timeline here. So we can see from the very beginning of the marketing timeline, we can kind of sense, well, maybe not from billboards, but from here, commercial radio, it's basically information is trickling down towards the consumer, towards the person, towards the audience, really. And that becomes a problem because most consumers cannot be producers with this model. So right around 2007, Facebook ads come out, and some people are starting to say, well, I can also produce so and so, and I can do this and this. So some of the perspective and some of the it starts to shift. The information also becomes where people are adding information to other people. So instead of trickling down from a big industry like media industry, like newspapers and CNN, individuals are adding towards the highway of information, right? So the flow of information is also from peer to peer, from individual to individual. Once the Facebook introduces ads, because it becomes more accessible. I can take $50, put it into a video ad. My video is going to be seen by thousands of people. That's pretty powerful. That's something that I wasn't able to do back in 2000 or 1990s. So the point of this timeline is by me pointing out that, hey, it's shifting from trickling down to kind of where everybody is participating. So the perfect example is this Red Bull ad. So this guy jumps from the balloon, but this whole operation is basically Red Bull. But nowhere do we see here people drinking Red Bull or Red Bull in a can. We don't see any of that. We see logo, and we see this stunt, public stunt, that really touches the core of humanity, because this is the highest parachute jump in history of a human being. So it's obviously historic, homogenous audience, right? It's pretty. Everybody across the globe can relate to this event. It's emotional, right? People are going to go into the 7-Eleven. They're going to see this Red Bull emblem or logo, and they're going to have these emotions. It's like, wow, there's going to be a different emotion between the Red Bull logo and Monster logo because people have seen this video, this stunt. It's amazing. Okay. Now, what we can do. Okay, so I shot this video for Cork and Pines during the time when European Village, that's a pretty cool community with a courtyard, and inside the courtyard there was like 30 people cooking chili, so it was an international chili cook-off, and I documented that event. And what's cool is that they posted on their Facebook page. Now, I would recommend posting it on their website, obviously, but I don't think they have a website. So the next best thing they did is they posted on the Facebook page, and I mean, it got a lot of action. You got 35 engagements, you have 29 shares, 3.5 thousand video views, and this is all organic. We did not boost this. We did not do anything to it. What's really cool is that they can always use this video again and again. So for the next year's chili cook-off, I can guarantee you that this video is going to bring a lot of new people to that chili cook-off by virtue of just having that media sit there for a year and be ready to be used for the next year's event. So media marketing is very powerful. So just like Red Bull, this is kind of very similar to what Red Bull did, but on a local level, right? So it was about event. It's a very emotional event, right? Chili, there's a celebration, people coming in and eating. So it's a very specific kind of audience. And, hot chili and beer, they go very well together. So again, next time people are going to think about Cork and Pines, they're going to think, wow, Cork and Pines gives me this really good feeling because they're part of the community. I feel like Work in Finance is part of the community, part of that my culture that I'm part of as well. So this is the kind of thinking that I'm kind of so this is the kind of thinking I'm inspiring you to have. So you don't have to be Red Bull in order to execute these things. All right, made myself smaller so we can all see this. I'm in love with Think and Grow Rich. It's a very old book, but there's so much fundamental truth in it. And this is such a great expert. The world has become accustomed to new discoveries. It has shown willingness to reward the dreamer who gives the world a new idea. The greatest achievement was, at first and for a time, but a dream. We need to learn how to communicate this dream, and this is why I'm giving you guys this lecture. The oak sleeps in the acorn, the bird waits in the egg, and in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of reality. Awake, arise, and assert yourself, you dreamers of the world. Your star is now in the ascendancy. The world depression, or today's recession, right, brought the opportunity you have been waiting for. It taught people humility, tolerance, and open mindedness. The world is filled with an abundance of opportunity. It's very true, which is the dreamers of the past never knew. I mean, the internet is just waiting to be explored, waiting for people to really step up their game. A burning desire to be and to do is the starting point from which the dreamer must take off. Dreams are not born of indifference, laziness, or lack of ambition. Now, what can we do with a burning desire? What do you mean by and to do? Burning desire to be and to do. I can guarantee you that having your own website where you can explore the possibility of documenting your own transformation, or being the thought leader, leading your customers into the new dimension of what you think the business should be, by example, first of all, by being open-minded and showing people what your minds and dreams are. I think that's the most important thing, but we can't do it on Facebook. We can't do it on Twitter. We can't do it on Instagram. Partially, we can advertise our snippets of an idea, kind of like breadcrumbs, but ultimately we want people to come into our website and really without any distractions, because all these social networks are just full of distractions, and that's fine. They have their own purpose, but we can be purposeful in creating a website where we can get people from those social media networks and onto our website in order to participate in our idea, in order to get some sort of feedback, in order to open up a conversation. So let's press forward. All right, so here we're going to be talking about 3 different versions of a website and the fundamentals of their differences and how to take advantage of the latest and greatest, so to speak. And the approach isn't necessarily in technological approach. It's about how you think about what the approach is in your thought. So quickly, I want to inspire you by this quote. I love Jim Rohn. We're going to be quoting a lot of Jim Rohn in this lecture. So if you want to go to work on your goals will work on you. If you go to work on your plan will go to work on you. Whatever good things we build end up building us. So really, I want us together, you and I, to build a perfect website so that your website can work for you, right? We're trying to achieve leverage in the marketplace using marketing technology, a website. Web 1.0, it's a static website. A website that does not have a blog, does not need to be updated. It's like set it and forget it. A lot of Wix.com websites are Web 1.0. It's the first fundamental version of how the web really came out. It was just static information on the website, no comments, no engagements, nothing, right? So Web 2.0, well, you have, that's not my own definition, that's wrong. But it does refer to user-generated content, social media being the greatest example of it. But it also can be a website that has a way for folks to upload things, to engage things like forums. Even leaving a comment below an article is also engagement. So that's Web 2.0. But the reality here that we're heading towards Web 3.0. Nobody really knows what exactly that is, but it is following an interesting, I'm not sure why it says from Psychology Today, just forgive me for that. But essentially, it's a semantic website. It's a website that is standalone. It's not connected to anything. It's a decentralized social engagement point in the internet on your own website, on its own domain. So the interesting part here is that that's kind of where we're going. So to get a glimpse of what that looks like, we need to understand what successful companies are already doing on their own in the model and the framework of Web 3.0. And that would be market network. Think of Airbnb, for example. That's 3.0 because it has its own marketplace, it has its own network, and it has its own workflow. Things are happening, people are engaging in it, people are able to put their property for rent for an extended period of time or whatever on that platform. So there's a user engagement, but it's decentralized in the sense that it doesn't belong to something like Facebook. It doesn't belong to anything like well, I guess in a sense it is still centralized on Airbnb, but the idea here is that it has workflow. That's a hint to us as an individual to build a website such that it has some sort of a workflow, right? And so we're going to be doing exactly that. Oh yeah, so I wanted to tell you that I really believe that marketing is where East potentially meets West. That's where art meets science. So through marketing, we can experience personal growth in a very, I think, in a sense, I don't want to overuse this woo-woo word, but like in a spiritual way, I think we apply marketing techniques. We are able to transform our individuality through marketing, believe it or not. So that's what I believe, but I regress. So this is a crash course. I'm going super fast. Yes, so selecting right audience. Don't worry, we're going to get to the Tumblr really soon. So selecting right audience, we really need to understand who we're talking to, or at the very least, who is looking at our content. Whether you're documenting your transformation and you're trying to be a life coach, or you're creating media and you're trying to get hired by people to create media for them, whether or not you're a local mom and pop shop creating pizza and you're putting pizza content out there, you just want people to get to notice you in your own community. You need to know who you're talking to. Okay. So if you want to be a leader who attracts quality people, the key is to become a person of quality yourself. And that's kind of what I was trying to make earlier, a point where this marketing application can be an experience of spiritual growth. Because it is from the spirit that we are able to consciously create an individual around us. An individual that serves our wants and needs, not an individual that reacts to the outside world in chaotic grievance rant, right? We don't want that. We want to take matters in our own hands, just like any entrepreneur does. So in order for us to understand who our audiences are, sometimes we want to say, well, what kind of person do I want to become? Right? So if we want to attract more affluent audience, we have to become more affluent for those audience to be attracted to us. So this is kind of where I'm going with it. So brand personality on a corporate level, a corporation creates a brand personality. Luckily, we already have a personality. It's just that maybe our personality doesn't really serve our audience, right? So something for us to think, something for us to start establishing as an idea of what that personality could be in order for us to attract the right kind of audience, right? More affluent, or maybe more. So again, if you're a mom and pop shop at a pizzeria and you want to start taking market share away from Papa John's and Domino's, well, what kind of audience does the Papa John's and audience serve? Well, they serve people who are price conscious, maybe, but not so much. I mean, I've ordered $30 pizza for two pizzas. I mean, that's a lot. But what, like for maybe $10 more, I can get from a mom and pop. I mean, $30 or $40 is not a big difference. So it's all about just creating a positive image about your brand in these people's minds. And that's not going to take a lot of effort if you can imagine your personality to be less cynical about, well, who's going to spend $10 more, and more optimistic in saying, well, they are going to spend $10 more because they're going to feel good about themselves. Remember, Purchasing decisions are emotional, not logical. Logical, oh, why should I spend $10? But emotional, oh, I'm going to spend $10 more. I'm going to feel good about it. I'm going to feel better about myself. That's emotional, and it's much stronger. It's going to overpower that logic. Oh, well, I'm going to save $10. Yeah, but this brand is a mom and pop. The money is going to stay in the community, and they're always participating in documenting football games on Sundays in high school, for example. I don't know what it is that you're going to be doing with media marketing. We're going to explore that in a minute. So psychographics. Psychographics are basically things that aren't physical attributes, right? So things that I like, my favorite color, the reason why I like my city, even is a psychographical aspect, social class, and so on. So these are also great characteristics to think about as pertaining to your audience, but also pertaining to yourself. What are your own psychographics? Because chances are, when you produce these content, you're going to be projecting some of that psychographics that you have onto your audience. So it's nice to be conscious of it, because then you're also probably going to be targeting that audience, and you're able to target that audience psychographically on Facebook, for example. So it's important to also know about your own psychographics when you produce these campaigns, or just media in general. Cultural capital. Cultural capital is something that you can't touch or see unless you document it. That's why having a website where you can present that documentation of the cultural capital gives you an upper hand, because you can bring an example of cultural capital through your own website to the public. Now, what is cultural capital? It's basically knowledge, behavior, skills that one can tap into to demonstrate cultural competence and gain status and standing in society. And that's what we want. We want to gain status and standing in our own local community, as to go to business provider, service provider, product provider, idea provider, whatever it is that you're doing on the ground level. And the best way to demonstrate your cultural capital is to literally put it out onto a format, into a media format, and distribute it onto some sort of platform, which is your website. And this is what brings me to organizing and transmuting. We organize our content in such a way that it can be transmuted into a different energy. So we're going from cultural capital to financial capital, right? That's the whole idea. The final lecture, which is a communication laboratory. This is where your website does become this communication laboratory, because you are not going to hit a home run from your first idea of how to put out media out there. You're gonna put some, trial and error. You're gonna maybe fall flat on your face, or you're gonna play it safe and you're gonna go slow. I don't know, but it's a laboratory. Your website is a laboratory. Anyway, so it's a Hollywood model. So you just want to start with a consistent theme, some kind of format, and think about putting out one good content per week. One good content per week doesn't mean that you have to spend an entire week creating that content. That means you can just spend one day creating 4 good quality contents for that entire month, and then put out one of those episodes, or whatever you want to call them, per week. So with the local newspaper model, you have, it worked in the past, right? Local newspapers are very powerful. They have great attention, awareness about them. They can gather a lot of attention and awareness locally, and they demand premium fees for placing your advertisement on their newspaper, obviously. So that's the model. Now, what we can do as publishers ourselves, we can obviously have our own native ads. So when we publish something, we can have our own ad on that what we published, and convert our visitors to our customers with our own native advertisement right on that article, or right on that piece of media that you're releasing. You can interview people, right? You can interview local people. You can interview testimonials. You can interview, you can interview customers for testimonials. You can interview your employees. You can interview anybody, really. Cultural capital, again, that's more like an internal thing, so you can document your activity. That's what I was going to say, that I every time I do a job, I photograph houses, for example, or parties or whatever I photograph. I put it out there on my blog as an article, but really it's an archive of everything that I've done. Again, that would be my part of my culture that I'm building on my website, and it becomes my capital because I can quantify it by saying, hey, like I have 30 articles that dedicated to 30 different jobs that I did. Now, when I'm showing this to my next client and saying, hey, you can look through all my jobs previously in a very organized manner, I'm going to be in a position where I'm going to be demanding higher fee, for example. Yeah, organize and share your knowledge. It's also part of that cultural capital that we talked about. Demographics. These people are in your city, so it's obviously the local newspaper model fits, right? All right. So then, frame control. This is very important. So our success depends. No, frame control depends on our success. So once people are aware of who we are, what we do, we are starting to demand some sort of status, right? Some sort of, not demand, but the natural consequence where people are going to be perceiving you very differently. Again, that's kind of like that spiritual growth that you will go through, because you're going to have to stay true to your values despite the fact that the relationship is changing by you, by virtue of you building this website up, that cultural capital about what you do up in this very transparent manner. People are going to look at you different. People are going to think of you differently in a good way. But the trick is to stay humble, because otherwise you're going to lose that frame control. Frame control gives you an ability to control the situation in a sense. So that's really where all of this is going, is so that you can have a better frame control when you go and meet new prospect, when you have new clients coming in through your door. Basically, if you're a mom and pop shop pizzeria that it has an amazing website culture in their own city, they have a star frame, meaning they're celebrity. If you're a real estate agent with also um, a website where they may not be star, but in that niche they are very knowledgeable. They have this wisdom frame where whatever they say is most likely going to be correct. So at some point, it's going to be like an inertia where people are going to trust you more. So you have that trust frame, perhaps. So that's the frame control, and that's entirely what we want. We want people. We want to control the frame when we are going out and getting more sales, selling our ideas, selling our business. We want to make sure that we are in control of that frame. All right, so we're in Tumblr. Tumblr is a blogging platform, which is perfect for us because we're doing media marketing. So we need a platform that acts like a publisher, that helps us publish our media on the internet. So it is kind of like a social network on its own. But the beautiful here part is that you can get your own domain and you can install your profile on that domain, and people will never know that you're on Tumblr. So another cool thing about Tumblr is, say, for example, you're a pizza shop, right? And you want to find a bunch of posts on pizza. This is funny. Is this funny? I bet that's funny. I bet you can make that. So another thing you can do, you can hit the blog, and you can add your stuff like, what the hell is this? Get real pizza at our store. So kind of create a call to action. Hit reblog. Then you go to so then you go to your website. You take this link. You go to your Facebook. You paste that. And there it is. Right? And So now, oops. So now, watch this baby, or like you can say, poor parenting. Poor parenting doesn't have to cost a great pizza. Check out today's special on our fake or our New York crust or whatever. So now when you post it, so now people are going to click on this, and immediately it's going to go where? To your website. Do you see how easy this is? Are you seeing the value of media marketing? I think this is amazing. Okay, so right now I'm just simply showing you the door. I'm not going too deep into any of this, but I'm just scratching the surface and giving you the understanding of what the potentiality here is. So in order to install your domain, put your domain onto your Tumblr account, you have to go to your settings, click on the blogs, and by the way, you can have multiple blogs under the same domain, under the same username. And here under username, click on this and checkmark use custom domain. If you go through GoDaddy will help you walk you through some of the steps. Actually, I do have a video that I'm going to be working on and showing you how to do this. But yeah, it's just scratch the surface of what this could be. I'm pretty sure that savvy people can figure from here on out themselves. But if you do need assistance on getting your Tumblr blog started, technically speaking, connecting it to your domain, reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to brainstorm on your brand personality or on your strategy behind media marketing. I'd be happy to discuss it with you. But right now, we've reached the end of this lecture, and literally you have everything in your possession to start putting together a good media marketing execution plan and following through with it with using Tumblr as a way to publish your media and attract local and affluent clients, global clients, whatever audience that you're trying to reach, you can. Just make sure to publish your content on your, or at the very least, organize your content. You can publish your content on Facebook, organize it on your website, and then going back to Facebook and driving people from Facebook to that organized content.